Please join us for Go Greener as we explore simple ways to become more efficient with the resources we use every day and save money while doing it. Go Greener identifies the low-hanging fruit all around us. It's easy, doesn't require a big investment or lifestyle change. With small steps, you'll save money, strengthen your local economy, and reduce dependence on imported energy and products. Join us now for Go Greener.
Welcome to GoGreener. I'm Maury Alter, and we are here to take a look at simple, no-cost and low-cost ways to make the most out of the resources you use every day.
And I'm Susan Chang. We'll also show you how to save money in the process.
Now, these days, everywhere you turn, just about everybody is talking about going green.
Many people think going green means going without and living a life of deprivation.
Or they think it requires extreme technology that's expensive, futuristic, or complicated, things like solar panels, electric cars, or geothermal systems. But we're here to show you that there are simple things you can do every day to increase the efficiency of what you already have and reduce what you consume.
There's no radical change necessary. We're not talking about life-altering moves, just little steps that you can include in your daily routine at whatever pace is right for you. Whether you're motivated by saving money or reducing dependence on foreign energy, strengthening your local economy or protecting the land, there are easy ways to go greener and save money in the process.
It doesn't matter if you live in a house or you live in an apartment, commute to work or work at home. There are so many ways to save every day by going greener.
From heating, cooling, and electricity to transportation, food, lighting, and water, the ways to save are everywhere.
Step one is a guilt-free assessment of what we do every day at home and at work. And in this program, we're going to give you a lot of really easy ways to get started. What we hope is that you'll see going greener can become second nature. So let's get started.
There's no better place to kick off than with a look at electricity. Lots of things are drawing power in your house right now, from appliances and computers to light switches and gadgets to the television you're watching. We're all surrounded by power-hungry objects.
But short of unplugging from modern life, how can you reduce the electricity you use on a day-to-day basis? Well, we went to the streets to ask folks like you what they would do if a new law required them to cut their electricity use in half.
Definitely be more aware of turning lights off when I leave the room.
You have to turn all your stuff off before you leave a room.
I would go to the candles.
I might start using candles more.
I'd probably get a smaller television.
If I had to reduce my energy use by 50%, I would probably turn off more lights.
Some interesting answers, but there are a lot of simple tricks to make energy reduction as easy as the flip of a light switch.
The first thing you want to tackle is invisible wasted energy, called phantom load, also known as vampire power. Great name for a rock band, but what it's really about is that electricity that a lot of appliances and gadgets just suck up simply by being plugged in. Even though you've turned them off, they're still draining juice. It might seem trivial, but that wasted energy adds up over time. If somebody asked you, "Oh, would you please go flush some money down the toilet?" you wouldn't do it, would you? But essentially, what's happening with unchecked phantom load is that you're flushing it.
Cell phone and camera chargers, power tools, computer monitors, televisions, and DVD players are just a few of the culprits. Together, the phantom power they use can add up to about 10% of a household electric bill. That means by unplugging these items, you're looking at more than 1 month of free electricity every year. Of course, it can be a real hassle to crawl behind furniture to unplug the television every time you're done watching, but there are some shortcuts that will make it easy to do.
One easy way to fight phantom load is by using a power strip. You plug in appliances that get used together in one location, like your TV and DVD player, or a computer and a printer. Then flip the switch of the power strip to off. Presto, no more phantom load for you. A more advanced version of the simple power strip is the smart power strip. Now that's designed to turn itself off if you forget to do it.
The Smart Strip monitors power consumption and can sense when devices like computers are on or off. If everything plugged into the strip is turned off, it will automatically stop the phantom power that they're using. It's a great device for home offices in particular. Just plug the computer into the master outlet, and at the end of the day, when you turn it off, everything else shuts off with it. Another way to cut your electric bill is by using a timer. These devices can be programmed to shut off lights, air conditioners, electric hot water heaters, and other appliances at predetermined times. It's a safe way to make sure you're not running items when you don't need to. Timers can run from $15 to $80 and are very easy to program and install.
Right she is. And with the minimal cost of power strips and timers, you'll see immediate savings in lower electric bills. Now, if you'll head into your kitchen and take a look inside your refrigerator, you'll find another way to use less energy and lower your electric bill.
Did you know that America's refrigerators use up roughly 5% of the total electricity we consume? Here's an easy way to manage how much power your fridge is using.
Generally, the refrigerator should be between 35 and 40 degrees Fahrenheit, and the freezer should be at about 0. So stick a thermometer in the refrigerator and adjust your settings to fit that range. You will be surprised how many of us keep the fridge too cold. When properly cleaned, a refrigerator will run more efficiently and it'll cost you a lot less every month. If you can handle it physically and emotionally, try unplugging it now and sliding it away from the wall so you can vacuum up the dust and other stuff that sometimes accumulates around the coils. With that buildup gone, your fridge can operate at full strength. If it's too hard for you to do that, though, don't worry about it. We've got so many other things to do in other rooms.
Most of us have at least one computer in the house. And while computer prices have gotten lower, keeping the computer running 24/7 can add up to a big energy bill. Consider this. Never shutting off a desktop computer with an LCD monitor can cost upwards of $160 a year. That's a lot of money when the average home user is on their computer for only a couple of hours a day.
Try simply turning on the sleep function on your computer. You can bring that cost down to about $20 a year doing that, and that dollar amount gets even lower if you unplug the computer between uses.
Sleep mode is a standard function of most computers, and there are a variety of ways to set it. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency suggests setting your computer to go into sleep mode after 30 minutes to an hour of inactivity, and the less time it's set for, the more energy you'll save.
And now that we've got you in energy-saving mode, when you go shopping for a new computer, look for models that have been Energy Star rated. Now, they will use about 20 to 50% less energy than their non-rated counterparts. Something else you might want to keep in mind is that many laptops use only a fifth of the energy that a desktop computer uses.
Definitely don't forget to look for the Energy Star rating on all of your new appliances. It's the most surefire way to know that you've bought something that won't drain power or your bank account.
So now that you've got a pretty good idea about some ways to cut your electric bill, what else can you do to start getting greener? Well, there are a lot of choices, and that's our next topic, which is lighting.
About 7% of the energy used in your home is for lighting, but you don't have to switch to candlelight to save money. You can start with buying the right bulbs. We're all familiar with the standard incandescent light bulb, like this one. They're the oldest and most commonly used in homes. But what you may not be aware of is that 90% of their electricity is turned into heat. So to keep cool and save energy, there are other better options.
What they are compact fluorescent lights, or CFLs as those are known, or LEDs, which stands for light-emitting diode. Now, they both cost more than incandescent bulbs, but they're a lot more energy efficient, and they're going to last a lot longer.
To give you an idea about how much more efficient, CFLs last on average 10 times longer than an incandescent bulb, emit far less heat, and use a quarter of the power. So the $60 you spend to light a room with a traditional bulb would cost you $15 with the new compact fluorescents. Well worth the extra expense for the bulbs themselves. Just remember that they work best and last longest when used in lights that are left on for at least 15 minutes. Turning them on and off too much will shorten their lifespan.
For a light source that will considerably outlast any of the others, like the incandescents and CFLs, LEDs are the answer. But just how long do they last? Are you ready? How about 50,000 hours? Now that is more than 2,000 days, or nearly 6 years. And that's 5 times longer than CFLs and 50 times longer than incandescents.
But LED lights aren't for everyone. The cost of manufacturing them is still very high, and these bulbs can run from $25 to $60 for night lights and small lamps. Manufacturers say that production will increase and prices will lower, but in the meantime, these lights are great for difficult-to-reach places and lights with dimmers.
And speaking of dimmers, they're a good way to lengthen the life of bulbs, reduce energy draw, and besides, who doesn't like to set the right mood from time to time? An alternative to dimmers is something called a motion sensor. Now, this device automatically turns on lights when someone walks into a room and shuts them off when nobody's there. That's an effortless way to control lights, particularly in rooms that aren't used very often.
But the cheapest way to light your home isn't with a gadget. It's with the sun. Natural light is one of our greatest resources, and increasing your use of it can have a big effect on your home lighting bill and your mood. Wherever natural light comes in, use it, even if you have to rearrange the furniture to get the most out of it. Well-placed mirrors can also spread the light from one space to another.
These are all great ways to light up the home and not your electric bill. But remember, the best trick is to always turn the lights off when you're not using them. Mom was right, it really does work.
Now that we've given you a dozen different ways to use less electricity without a major lifestyle change, let's look at water use. Unfortunately, we take water for granted, even though we pay more and more for it every year. We looked at the most common ways people use water at home and went back to the streets and asked a simple question. Do you turn off the water when you brush your teeth?
Most of the time, I usually leave it running.
Well, when I brush my teeth, I do now try to turn the water off.
When I brush my teeth, I actually used to leave the water running.
Sometimes I do because I then rinse the toothbrush and I figure it's not that much water that I'm using.
I brush my teeth in the shower.
Well, at least they're honest. The truth is, if you let the water run while brushing your teeth, you're using lots more water than necessary, and your money is really going down the drain. Now, the water flow is different in every household, but for this specific faucet, she used 3 gallons of water brushing her teeth with the water running. By shutting it off while brushing, she used only a quart, and you could do it with even less.
Think about how many times you brush your teeth. Over the course of a year, you could fill about 100 bathtubs with the amount of water that goes right down the drain. Now, how about shaving? Here's a situation where just a little adjustment can amount to big savings and roughly enough water to fill about 4 large hot tubs. Letting the water run when you shave will use about 4 gallons. Instead, use a stopper in that drain of yours. Add a little water and rinse the blade as needed. This method will reduce the water used per shave to around 2 pints. That's almost a 94% savings in water.
So if that's what you're using at the sink, think about what happens in the shower. Well, by letting the water run for the duration of a 10-minute shower, you use about 15 gallons. The ideal way to conserve water in the shower is with an inexpensive on-off valve that installs easily between your existing shower head and the water pipe. When you shower, switch the water off between shampooing, soaping up, and rinsing off. The valve keeps the water temperature just where you had it. With this method, you're only using a little under 4 gallons of water. Over the course of a year, the water savings could be enough to fill a 13-foot wide above-ground swimming pool. If you're not up for the start and stop method, try timing yourself. Keeping an eye on the amount of time you spend in the shower will help keep you from letting too much water go to waste.
Or you could take fewer showers. Speaking of water waste, you might be surprised at how much water gets lost by leaks. Even a tiny one can be a big drain. A very small stream of leaking water can literally add up to thousands of gallons wasted every month. So when you see the first sign of a drip, or if you hear the toilet running all the time, take care of it right away.
And one more thing, though it might sound strange. While the shower is heating up, put a bucket under the tap and collect the water. It can be put to good use on your gardens or houseplants.
Another big water and electricity draw is your washing machine. We hit the street asking people how many times they thought they would wear a piece of clothing before they washed it.
With jeans, for example, I'll usually wear those about 4 or 5 times.
Depends on what it is. I think this is the 3rd time I've worn these pants.
One could, but I can't.
I'm usually not too concerned about that.
Maybe it's a girl thing, but I like to wear clean clothes every day and only wear something once. And I also like to have a shower every morning and every evening. So I guess that's probably not very environmentally friendly.
And I'll be honest, I mean, it's partly for the environment, partly just for budget.
Well, I am from Soviet Union, so for a week at least before it gets washed.
The best time to do laundry is when you've got a full load of it. Half loads waste water and electricity. Then, whenever it's possible, let your clothes hang dry. That way you avoid running the dryer and you cut your electricity bill. You may want to reintroduce a tried and true method of drying clothes that was used not all that long ago. It's called a clothesline. Remember those? Well, it'll cost almost nothing to use and it uses no energy.
All of the ideas we've been talking about so far are just little parts of the GoGreener process. They're small steps that you can take every day. If we've impressed you with anything so far, it's that little things add up.
From computers to lights to faucets, using your resources a bit more efficiently can amount to saving some serious money. This kind of self-audit can be applied to most areas of our lives, and we'll be getting to many more of those as the program continues.
Coming up, we'll explore what it means to buy locally. We'll talk about how the foods we eat and grow can make a positive difference, and we'll meet some incredible people who are already doing it.
But first, let's dish the dirt on cleaning. The average American household spends hundreds of dollars a year on a wide variety of cleaning supplies, but there is no need to burn through all of your cash on prepackaged chemical cleaners. Simple vinegar and baking soda mixed with a little warm water makes probably the best of all-purpose cleaners, bar none.
That little box of baking soda is a valuable household tool. It doesn't just help eliminate odors from the refrigerator, it can also deodorize a carpet, polish silver, clean fruits and veggies, and even put out a grease fire.
Vinegar is a powerful disinfectant that dates back as far as the ancient Romans. Like baking soda, vinegar works wonders as an all-purpose cleaner. It's great at polishing kitchen appliances, cleaning floors, counters, food containers, and for getting rid of pet odors. And those are just a few. Try spraying it on moldy areas, and in a few hours the mold and the smell will be long gone. Add some vinegar to your dishwasher or coffee maker once a month and clean out its inner workings.
So what happens when you combine these two miracle ingredients? You get a superior cleaning product. Equal parts baking soda and vinegar can unclog drains, unstick garbage disposals, remove urine stains from mattresses, and clean everything from your toilet to your tiles. It's amazing how many uses these two common items have. Best of all is the money you won't have to spend at the store on cleaning supplies.
Now, if you're looking for a good scrubbing brush that money doesn't need to buy, look no further than your old toothbrushes. Sounds kind of gross, doesn't it? But it's really not. Soak them in vinegar, and you've got yourself a disinfected toothbrush ready for its second life as a scrub brush. Use them for cleaning moldy grout, sinks, faucets, or stains on clothing. And remember now, it's your old toothbrush.
Earlier, we talked about the energy-efficient light bulb choices to reduce your electric bill. Now, here's a strange but true fact. Dust on light bulbs waste your money. How's that possible? Well, the dirt and grease that builds up on bulbs can reduce their brightness by up to 20%. So you're actually paying for light that you're not even getting. By carefully wiping cool-down bulbs and lampshades with a lint-free cloth, you can get the most out of the lights you have.
No conversation about house cleaning would be complete without bringing up paper towels. They end up as approximately 3,000 tons of waste every day in this country. And I'm guilty on that one, but I have learned that you can reduce the garbage and your costs by switching to reusable rags. Whether you buy cleaning rags in the store or use those old t-shirts in the closet. Rags are much sturdier, washable, and reusable at a fraction of the cost.
And finally, after a long day outside, take your shoes off. The last thing you want to do to your vinegar and baking soda fresh home is track oil, antifreeze, animal waste, pollen, and who knows what else into the house, especially if you've got young kids crawling around the floor. A good doormat or a no-shoe policy will take care of that problem, and the less dirt you track, the less time you'll spend mopping and vacuuming, which means less water, work, and energy spent. And who doesn't want that?
You'll get no contest from me on that one. Air pollutants are a lot harder to control than dirt, but Mother Nature does have a way of detoxing your home. Certain varieties of houseplants are actually air purifiers. That's right, the plants here on our stage are on NASA's list of effective air pollution fighters.
So that's our short primer on cleaning and going greener. Now let's take a look at one of the most used rooms in the home, the kitchen.
If you're cooking on a gas stovetop, energy efficiency depends on two colors, blue and orange. The blue colored part of the flame is the hottest part, hotter than the orange. So utilize it by making sure that's the part that hits your pots and pans. The blue part will reduce your cooking time too.
If you use a microwave, be aware that energy efficiency and cleanliness, that's right, cleanliness, are connected. If the inside area of your microwave is dirty, those stains and bits of spilled food are actually absorbing energy along with whatever dish you're cooking.
And then there's the oven. Strangely enough, a big waste of energy happens when you preheat your oven. For dishes that take more than 20 minutes to cook, you do not have to preheat. Just put the food in when you turn the oven on. But you have to make sure you keep the door closed for as much of the cooking time as possible, because every time you open it up, heat escapes and you'll have to keep the oven on that much longer. That's according to a master of kitchen efficiency, Chef David Kamen of the Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park, New York. We asked him to show us more ways to run the kitchen for less.
Well, there's a lot of ways people can save money, even at the stove. Most people, when they cook rice, will put the rice in the pot, bring it to a boil, and let it simmer for as long as 20 minutes until the rice is cooked. With most white rice today, all you need to do is bring it to a boil, turn it off, cover it, and just let it stand there. And in about 15 to 18 minutes, the rice will be perfect. The advantage of doing it that way is that you don't have to have the gas or the electricity on for 20 minutes. It's 20 minutes of gas you can save. And your rice actually cooks a little bit better also, because you run less of a risk of overcooking it, less of a risk of having the moisture evaporate out too quickly. It's almost like your own personal little electronic rice cooker. The best way to cook eggs is to take your eggs and put them right into a pot of cool water. The eggs don't even have to be cold. You can let the eggs sit out at room temperature for a few minutes. When you put a cold egg into cold water, it's just going to take that much longer to cook and come up to temperature. If you let the eggs sit out at room temperature for 10 or 15 minutes, there's nothing wrong with that. There's no food safety issues about that, but they will take a little bit less time to cook, therefore less energy to cook. They'll cook a little bit more evenly and give you a better product because of that. You want to make sure that when you put the eggs in, you have just enough water to cover the eggs. Too much water is too much water that has to get hot and takes more energy to heat up that much water, and that's going to also change the way your eggs cook inside there. Not enough water inside the pot, and there's not going to be enough energy in there to cook your eggs all the way through. If you do turn the pot off and let it sit there, if you don't have enough water inside the pot, then you don't have enough residual heat to cook the eggs all the way.
And kitchen efficiency is not just in the cooking, it's also in the leftovers.
A lot of people have leftovers, leftover soup or leftover sauces or leftover dinner, and they'll just take that hot food and put it right into the refrigerator. And what happens then is the refrigerator has to work harder to cool the food down. The hot food heats up the refrigerator, putting all the rest of the food inside there in jeopardy. So to avoid this, one of the things you can do is pre-cool your food. So here we have some leftover tomato sauce, and it's sitting in a bowl of cold water, some ice water with some ice cubes inside there. And what we want to do is just want to stir this around a little bit, just until it's no longer hot. That way when we put it in the refrigerator temperature doesn't rise, the refrigerator doesn't have to work so hard to cool down anymore, and it prevents your food from spoiling.
And when you're done cooking and eating, it's time to run the dishwasher, or is it? We went back to the streets to ask people what they think uses more water, washing dishes by hand or by dishwasher.
I'm sure the dishwasher uses more.
My guess is the dishwasher.
I'm gonna say by hand because you have to fill up the sink and you have to rinse all the dishes.
I would think a dishwasher does, unless you've got a real high energy efficient dishwasher.
Using a dishwasher uses more water.
From what you're told, I would say the dishwasher takes more water than washing by hand.
Well, it turns out that in this case, machine beats man. Aside from being easier, an efficient dishwasher can use less water than doing dirty dishes by hand. But there are some rules. Only run a full dishwasher. Anything less is a waste of water. If you don't like letting dishes sit for long, many new dishwasher models have a half-load option that uses half the water, and they're Energy Star rated too.
So it's better to let the dishwasher do the work for you. These days, most dishwashers can handle unrinsed dishes, so there's no need for you to do a pre-rinse. Just scrape the scraps into your garbage, compost bucket, or disposal and put the dishes right in the machine. By not pre-rinsing, households will save thousands of gallons of water a year.
Finally, load smart. Put the dirty side of the dishes facing towards the center of the machine, so they get the direct spray of water. Keep large items at the sides and back, so they don't block the spray from reaching the detergent dispenser. And finally, don't nestle silverware and plates too closely together, or else they won't get clean and you'll have to wash them again.
Of course, not everybody has a dishwasher, and if that's the case, there's a right way to hand wash. If you've only got a couple of dishes and utensils, turn the water off between washing and rinsing. With larger loads, plug the sink or use a dishwashing tub and add hot soapy water and let them soak. Then scrub the dishes, drain the sink, rinse them off with cool water, and let everything air dry on a dish rack.
There are good reasons to conserve water in the kitchen. First, you're keeping the local water supply from being depleted, and you lighten the load on your septic system or on energy-intensive water treatment plants.
Now, before we leave the kitchen, there's one more thing to consider. Food scraps usually end up in landfills, but with just a little bit of effort, they can be composted instead. That's a great way to reduce the amount of garbage a family generates. And in many communities, your garbage collection bill gets reduced too. Catherine Walks is the host of her own award-winning show, The Lazy Gardener. She's an expert on composting.
I don't really remember when or why I started to compost, but it is actually the single most important thing that you can do for your property, because compost is black gold. You don't have to buy it, first of all. It's all around you. You just have to make it, and you don't have to put any special chemicals, because compost has all these natural biological organisms that protect against disease and fertilize your plants. And so I guess the more I read, the more I realized, well, composting is a good thing to do. I started with one bin. Now I have 3 bins because it wasn't enough. I liked to do them in different stages, and I have different composts for different kinds of things. And we have gone from 3 bags of garbage a week to 1 bag of garbage a week just by eliminating vegetable scraps and paper towels, paper products that don't have chemicals on them.
No matter where you garden, composting is a great practice. You don't have to own property to compost, but if you do, one simple way to get started is by using resources already in your yard. Every year, leaves are raked and put out with the trash. So instead of doing that, you can take advantage of their nutrients.
I always laugh around the fall because people are gathering up all their leaves and they're putting it by the curb, and they're giving away this precious resource, which I then gather. In the evening, I go and I gather all the leaves and I bring them to my property, because leaves, I mean, Mother Nature's kind of figured it out after all these millions of years. Leaves drop, they have all the nutrients in them, and it feeds the roots of the trees. So if you're taking away these nutrients, you've got to either add them chemically, you've got to add mulch, which you have to buy. I mean, the whole process is crazy to me. Since I've been composting, you could see my soil is so rich and dark and full of nutrients, and you compare that to my neighbors who blow dry their soil, and their soil is dry and cracked without any nutrients. It just can't even compare.
So now you've got all this compost and all this great soil. So what are you going to do with it? Make your own garden.
And if you're interested in gardening, but you don't have a lot of space or want to use what you have really efficiently, there's something called the square foot method. Here's Annie Novak, Program Director of Growing Chefs, Food Education from Field to Fork. We talked to her at Rooftop Farms in Greenpoint, Brooklyn.
Apartment gardeners, or people with not a lot of space, can learn to compact all of their gardening and get a really big harvest out of not a lot of space. You can measure square feet within your growing space, and within that square foot there are certain spacing rules where you can compact your plants. So for example, most tomatoes need to be about 18 to 24 inches apart. In the square foot gardening system, you take a square foot and you put 1 tomato plant in the middle. Most beans should be spaced about 8 to 12 inches apart in rows that are about 2 feet apart. For a square foot gardener, we put a lot. You're supposed to put 4 bean plants in 1 square foot. We might have amped it up to 6. So right here in this area, we have lacinato dinosaur kale, purple bush beans, Hungarian hot wax and cherry bomb peppers. We have an heirloom tomato growing, and we have some Swiss chard, and in the front we have basil. And all of that fits within 3 feet by 4 feet wide. So that's a lot of vegetables. And if you come to the farm and you tell me you only have a little amount of space, this is clear proof that you can harvest a decent amount of food off of that little area that you have.
Rich soil is every gardener's dream. Bad bugs, the nightmare. So what's a gardener to do in lieu of chemical pesticides? Well, there are many natural alternatives, including beer and ladybugs. You heard me right. Beer kills slugs. And here's Catherine Walks again on ladybugs.
Ladybugs are amazing pest controllers, and they will find the pests wherever they are in your garden. And they are voracious. They'll just eat all the pests. So if you just look more closely at your plants, you'll see that there's this ecosystem that's happening without you having to do it. And if you spray, you're upsetting that balance, and then your plants need you to keep spraying to keep that unevenness going.
If you like the idea of avoiding chemical pesticides, herbicides, and fertilizers, then organically grown food is for you.
These days, finding organic ingredients doesn't have to be like finding the proverbial needle in a haystack. Organic produce can be grown and sold just about anywhere, including a Brooklyn rooftop. Here's Annie Novak again.
Eating local food is about more than just nutrition. Locally grown food is grown in the same ecosystem that you live and breathe and drink the water. And if there are organic farmers growing 30 to 150 miles from where you live, their organic practices are what protects your watershed. As a New Yorker, I eat local food because in a city where child asthma rates are super high because of all the shipping and trucking we do, I'm interested in spending my money at a place where I know just up the river in my watershed, there are farmers growing in a way that protects my air and my water that I'm breathing down here as a consumer.
If you like the idea of fresh produce, then shop at your local farmer's market. There's something so special about buying directly from the people who've grown your food.
Buying local is important in a lot of ways because people want to buy organic and people want to buy local, and a lot of times people don't understand the difference. The key thing is that organic pepper that you bought from Chile, sure, it doesn't have any chemicals or fertilizers or any type of quote-unquote, man-made products, but it also had to be shipped here, and how much jet fuel and how much labor in carting it and moving it around did it cost just to get to your store? Whereas that pepper on our farm had to go about 20 miles to here where you picked it up. So the amount of gasoline saved just in that one pepper is astronomical. Buying local is also huge because by saving our farm, by keeping us in business, you're also keeping the land from being developed.
As you see, going greener starts in your own backyard. Thinking and buying locally is a powerful way to go greener for lots of reasons. For one thing, it supports your local economy. It keeps jobs in your area. It reduces the need for imported oil, and it's a lot healthier for you and all of your family members. So while buying locally and organic can cost a bit more, it can reap big benefits in the long-term vibrancy of your community.
Coming up, we'll explore ways to go greener around the office and greener transportation options. But first, let's take a look at the biggest chunk of your utility bill, heating and cooling.
Did you know that heating and cooling add up to around half of your utility bill? With so much money spent on home climate control, it really does pay to learn how to stay comfortable while cutting cost and energy waste. You can start by using your window shades in the summer. Close the shades on windows that get direct sunlight and open them in the winter.
If used the right way, a fan can be your new best friend. Unless you live in a really humid area, an old-fashioned fan placed in front of a window will really cool your home in the summer at a fraction of the cost of an air conditioner.
The best idea is to create an airflow from the cool, shaded parts towards the hotter, sunlit parts. So place that fan to pull the air from the windows on the shaded side of your home or apartment. Then point another fan out, exhausting the air through the window where it's hotter.
If you can't take the heat, stay out of the kitchen has a new meaning for going greener. If possible, try cooking on a grill or hibachi outside. Without the stove on in your kitchen, the temperature will stay down in your home.
One simple rule for keeping your energy costs down in the summer is to avoid unneeded air conditioning and only cool a house when you're in it. A quick path to savings with a small investment is a programmable thermostat. Now, that will let you set the temperatures to turn on and off at specific times. Programmable units range from simple timer-like devices to more elaborate multifunction ones. Those can be set for each day of the week, so put one in your home and let it do the work for you.
Most people set their cooling temperatures very low. Remember, each degree on your thermostat equals money spent. Try setting it at 78 degrees Fahrenheit, but keep in mind that you could save 5 to 8% of cooling costs for each degree above that. For most households, a temperature of 80 degrees could potentially save 10 to 15% on your bill, and raising it to 85, you'll be looking at 35 to 50% savings.
Now, a major benefit of air conditioning is that it reduces humidity. And you can feel even less sticky if you put a fan in front of your air conditioner. It's an easy way to keep the thermostat up, the temperature down, and reduce the costs.
Another way to keep the temperature and your bills low is to make sure you clean your air filters. Dust accumulates on them, which impedes their airflow and causes damage to the unit. Regular cleaning will prevent this buildup, and if you have central air, you should replace your filters seasonally. It's also a good idea to have your condensers cleaned by a professional every 2 years.
Now let's turn up the heat. In an era of cheap and plentiful energy, we've forgotten a very simple rule that our grandparents lived by. When you're cold, put on an extra layer or a sweater. When you're setting the thermostat for heating, experiment a little bit and see what you're comfortable with. It's the same as air conditioning. Consider that every degree costs money.
There are also some simple ways to heat your home without wasting energy. Start by checking your doors. They don't just keep intruders out. They're really important for keeping heat in. If there are gaps between the door and door frame, you're going to be losing heat and throwing your money away. Weather stripping is cheap and easy to install and will prevent air leakage. Meet Larry Nisman of Phoenix Mechanical.
Well, I would say pick a door and get the weather stripping materials, a pair of scissors and a tape measure, and spend an hour sizing it up and attempting it yourself. You can't do any harm. The worst that happens is you spend a few dollars on the weather stripping and you're unsuccessful. But I think you'll find that it's easier than you think it'll be. And there aren't that many exterior doors in even large homes, 2, 3, 4 doors at the most. So it's really not that big a task.
Windows ought to get the same attention. Check around the edges and make sure that there's no draft. If there is, use weather stripping or caulk. Unless you've got money you want to throw out the window.
It's very cost effective. It might cost you $5 to get a caulking gun and a can of caulk. And basically, you'll run a bead of caulk over the crack or gap and wipe away any excess caulk that you may have and allow it to dry. And that's about it. Takes a little practice to do it neatly, but generally it's something that anyone can do. You can use clear caulk, so it won't leave any color behind. And then they have colored caulks if you want to match it up against molding colors.
Another way to weatherize windows is to attach a thin, clear plastic film to the window molding by using two-sided tape. Now, if you heat this with a blow dryer, then that film will stretch taut and help to insulate. And remember, window treatments can also keep in the heat. Closed shutters, curtains, and drapes all help to insulate, and you'll be able to keep your thermostat lower by a few degrees.
When it comes to home heating, good things do come in small packages. Instead of using your big furnace to heat your whole house, try small space heaters in the rooms you use the most. Let's go back to Larry Nisman.
Well, space heaters in the past have gotten a bad rap because different types of space heaters can be unsafe, or if there's kids in the house and they touch a hot element. So it's important that you do the research and buy a proper space heater and follow all the safety precautions. But I use in my own home, we live in a small cottage in the woods that's poorly insulated, and we have an oil heating system, and it's expensive to heat with oil. We use majority of our time our space heater, keeps us warm all winter, and costs us a lot less money.
And if you're lucky enough to have a fireplace, it's best to keep the flue closed when either the heat or AC is on. Just remember to open it before you decide to build a fire.
Heck of an idea, Susan. To be energy efficient, your home needs to be insulated. Think of insulation as a home's thermal underwear. Most older homes don't have enough. So what's the result? The heat you're paying for is lost to the great outdoors. Take it from Hugo Salinas. He's the vice president of the New York Energy Conservation Company.
The benefits are for heating and cooling, both seasons. The summer seasons, when the air conditioning is running through the ductwork, it's going to help retain that cool air flowing around the house. In turn, the same thing in the wintertime. So we want to keep the heat and the cooling within the house and not let it go outside.
Pipes, ductwork, recessed lights, chimneys, and windows are all potential sources for air leakage. They're the common spots where you need to make sure everything is sealed properly. If you can't tell if an area is producing a draft, put a lit candle next to it to see if air is coming through. If there is a draft, expanding foam caulk does a great job sealing it up. It's very easy to apply.
Another area to add insulation is around hot water pipes. Now, if you've got a gas heater, it's best to start that insulation about a foot from the top of the appliance. Your water will be warmer by a few degrees, and that means the water heater setting can be lowered. Also, the shower will heat faster, and that's less time you have to run the water before you jump in.
And just like with your air conditioner, the filter from your furnace needs to be cleaned at least once a year. Most furnaces use inexpensive filters that are easy to replace, so take advantage of that. A dirty filter reduces the airflow, which makes the system work extra hard and has the potential to damage the compressor.
If all of these tips are a little overwhelming, then you might want to consider having a professional energy audit. We did that at my house. It's an easy way to learn about the efficiency of your heating and cooling systems. And it will show you all sorts of ways to save on utility bills. Professional auditors will use a variety of techniques and equipment, and those will reveal the extent of air leaks throughout your house. Then they'll advise you on all your options, including how long these fixes will take to pay for themselves.
Okay, so time to go back to the streets. Suppose the law said you had to reduce your garbage by 50%. How would you do it?
The first thing that pops in my mind is I'd eat less.
So if I had to cut down garbage, I'd probably cancel a lot of magazine subscriptions.
I use fewer packaging products, but they're so hard to find.
Eliminate tin foil and plastic, Ziploc bags, things like that. That would be the easiest way for me.
So I would recycle glass, paper, plastic, I guess, aluminium tins, that sort of stuff.
Try to look at the stuff that I'm throwing away, especially the recyclable stuff like cans and stuff.
Well, it's no surprise that when people think about going greener, they think about recycling. Everybody has an inkling about what that means, but who really knows the details? According to the EPA, the national recycling rate is only 30%. If we increase that number to 60%, we would save nearly 315 million barrels of oil every year. That's about 8% of what we now have to import.
And once you get the hang of it, recycling is pretty easy.
Over the past 2 decades, there's been a huge jump in the number of battery-powered items that we use. Hard to imagine life before them. Just think about what's in your home, from remote controls to alarm clocks to kids' toys, all of them battery-powered. A small shift in behavior can keep them running and running and running while saving you money.
Rechargeable batteries are the answer. Battery rechargers are cheap and small. Plus, here's a statistic that will really shock you. The lifespan of one rechargeable battery is equal to 500 to 1,000 disposable batteries. So even with the electricity needed to keep a rechargeable juiced up, you'll still be saving.
But even those rechargeable batteries will eventually kick the bucket. And when they do, remember that all batteries contain metals that are dangerous if left to rot. So you've got to recycle these properly.
One of the world's biggest trash problems is the increasing volume of so-called e-waste. Electronics are responsible for 22 million tons of waste every year, and that amount is growing.
Computer monitors contain an average of 5 to 8 pounds of lead, and that ends up in landfills. If you're getting rid of electronics, please find a responsible location near you that will dispose of it properly.
Another way to go greener is to reuse items. For example, if you unfold and store cardboard boxes, they can be used again and again, which will save both money and time. Don't limit your reuse to just boxes. Plastic bags can carry just about anything at any time. Or better yet, switch from plastic to cloth or string bags.
Now, let's cover going greener around your office. According to the Department of Labor, we Americans average about 9.3 hours of work a day. That's a big chunk of time. So it's not surprising that offices account for nearly a fifth of all commercial energy consumption, and that workers generate a lot of wasted paper.
We each average 1.5 pounds of paper waste per day, to be exact, and that could really add up. One way to get the most out of your paper is to print on the back of used sheets, and remember to separate paper from other trash so it can be recycled.
When it comes to paper, recycled or not, the only way to go greener is to use less of it. Try not printing documents that will soon be outdated. And before you hit the old print button, think about whether you really need to hit it at all. It's astounding to think about how much paper you throw away, and it's an easy habit to change. So we've already learned that desktop computers use a lot more energy than laptops use. But if that's not an option at the office, we've also learned that unplugging, using the sleep mode, and powering off are all ways to save energy. The EPA says more than 11 billion kilowatt hours, or nearly $1 billion a year, could be saved if the 55 billion office computers in the U.S. were Energy Star rated.
Another way to save money and resources is to bring your own lunch in reusable containers. Everything from utensils to plates and coffee cups can be used over and over again. Compare that to the wrapping and packaging a store-bought lunch comes in and ends up thrown in the trash. Also, if you have the option in your workspace, try to take advantage of natural light.
We've talked about the home and we've talked about the office. So now let's talk about getting from one to the other, namely transportation. This topic is at the heart of Going Greener, and here are some interesting numbers. According to a 2004 AAA study, the average American spends nearly $8,500 a year owning a car. That's a lot of money that you could save by switching to public transportation. And when you're driving, drive efficiently. If your tires are underinflated or overinflated, you'll be using extra gas. Meet Bob Hanley of Elmont Car Care in Long Island, New York.
It's very important that your tires are inflated properly to get good fuel mileage. As a layperson, if you've ever tried to push anything that's on tires that is underinflated, you're going to find it's almost impossible or very, very difficult to push that car. Try and push a car with flat tires. You will not be able to push it. Inflate those tires and you can push the car by yourself. Getting that precise level of air inflation will give you the best fuel economy. If it's underinflated, it's too much resistance and there's too much power being used to move the car. If it's overinflated, then the tire becomes more round and there's less tire grabbing the road. So it affects fuel economy that way. So the proper inflation is very important for fuel economy and safety.
According to the DOT, 60 to 80% of the cars on the road are driving on tires deflated at least 10%. So there's a good chance that you may be driving one of those cars. But not to worry. Checking tire pressure is so easy a 6-year-old could do it.
Another recommendation Bob makes is to check the air filter on a regular basis, or as he calls it, the lungs of your car.
For a healthy car, you also need clean gasoline. Meet Robert Sinclair from AAA of New York.
We recommend that people avoid buying gasoline when the delivery truck is there making a delivery. What happens is all those hundreds and thousands of gallons are going down into the tanks in the ground, and it kicks up sediment. There's sediment in all gasoline, all petroleum distillate products. And if you're pumping gas while that sediment is kicked up, that sediment can go into your tank, clog your fuel filter or something else, clog your fuel injector, which really ruins fuel economy and becomes a maintenance and repair issue for your vehicle.
Maintenance is important, but real savings on gas begins with the way you drive. Again, Robert Sinclair.
Among the top things that you can do to save gasoline when you're driving is to slow down. Whatever speed you're accustomed to driving at on the highway, lower it. Accelerate gently, especially if you're in a city urban situation and you've got red light after red light. Accelerate from those red lights very gently. Do your braking early. Come off the gas if you're approaching a red light as soon as possible. Every extra second that you're on the gas, you're burning more gasoline. If you're driving along the highway and you're approaching a hill, speed up before you actually get to the hill, and that way your momentum can help carry you up the hill and you don't have to keep your foot on the gas burning gasoline as you crest that hill.
And just as we recommended earlier to not preheat your oven, the same goes for your car.
Well, a lot of people like to let their cars warm up to get nice and warm and toasty on those cold days, but it wastes an incredible amount of gasoline. You know, bear it a little bit, the cold. You can let the engine run for about a minute and then drive gently until the temperature in the engine is at operating temperature. Accelerate very slowly, drive at a low speed, brake gently, and that can warm the engine up without wasting gasoline.
Another way to save gas is by carpooling. You might not want to see your coworkers as soon as you leave your house, but is $3,000 a year in savings enough incentive? Because that's the amount AAA says Americans could save on average with regular carpooling. And how about working from home? Many companies will let you telecommute 1 day a week, which will save you money on daily expenses. And when you're driving around, try to make the most out of your trips and take care of all of your errands at the same time. That will help you save on gas money.
Generally, energy-saving measures are a good investment. Since energy prices probably aren't going to go any lower, the payoff will only get better. Before you make any major purchase to go greener, it's important to figure out a few things. What is the cost of buying and installing? How much money does the efficiency of the items save over time? And ultimately, how long will it take to pay it off?
This applies to buying anything, from new window shades to insulation to solar panels. This is what we call payback, and it's an important concept. Here's Hugo Salinas from the New York Energy Conservation Company.
My suggestion is the best thing is to contact some of these contractors that are doing this for the homes, and you can get free estimates. You can feel out the different contractors that are out there, and there's no obligation. I mean, you can, like I said, get a free estimate and see if it falls within your budget. The good thing is the payback is quick, especially on insulating your home. So you can see your money back within at least 5 years, which is the norm. And then that way, after that, you're saving money on utility bills, you're adding value to your home. So it definitely makes sense.
Let's say a family is spending $2,000 a year to heat their home. To cut that bill, they spend $4,000 to add insulation. They'll be saving $800 a year on their heating bill. So how long would it take to recoup the cost of insulating? You could be done repaying in 5 years, and you'll also be creating jobs in your local community.
And do keep in mind there are federal tax credits for green improvements, and some states offer them too. Also look for incentives from local utility companies. For example, in existing homes, the government will cover a percentage of the cost for windows, doors, insulation, roofs, central heating and cooling, even water heaters.
And if you want to go one step further, there are currently tax breaks for geothermal heat pumps, solar panels, water heaters, even hybrid electric cars. More information can be found at pbs.org/GoGreener.
Going greener is motivated by those good old American traditional common sense values of thrift, innovation, and self-reliance. New ways to support good old values.
You have learned that little adjustments can result in significant savings. Plus, going greener helps strengthen the local economy. It brings in local jobs and helps us reduce our dependence on imported energy and products.
Going greener doesn't have to be taxing, doesn't have to be difficult, nor does it require a huge investment or involve a major lifestyle change on any of our part. Whether you are a homeowner or an apartment dweller, it only takes small changes in your daily routine to save a lot of money. You don't have to tackle it all at once either. But we think you'll see that when you get started, it's easy to go greener in more areas of your life.
And you'll be glad to go greener.